Um, this purpose is trying to really differentiate between research, academic research, and then popular opinion. Um, and of course, it would create a lot of difference because that's where the difference is between activism and then um, uh, pursuit of research excellence. Uh, research would take generally a lot of time, whereas policy making for the government, especially for as far as the work of political leaders is concerned, well, you would be making decisions on a daily basis. While at the same time, if you are, for example, a businessman, an entrepreneur, you will be monitoring daily sales of your, whatever merchandise you're selling. But one of the most challenging positions would be for the security apparatus of the country, the men and women in uniform. That is Pakistan Army or Pakistan Police or any military with a very high standards or a police with very high standards. And if you ask me, Pakistan Police has quite a job at their hands, and they are brave, they're resilient, uh, they're patient with with uh, with the complexities that represent social structure in Pakistan, where there is kind of inequality, and there is a lot of urban migration, where Lahore is one of the most popular cities. Same is true with Karachi. So for army and police, they as well be making decisions on a daily basis, and uh, and for Pakistan Army, at the level of colonel, you would be finding officers serving at the border areas, where you would have western border and eastern upon Pakistan border, and then it represents uh, uh, immaculate attention, and then reporting that how things have been managed at the borders, while at the same time there would be a strategic direction that Pakistani security forces would be taking. For example, in case of Pakistan's foreign policy, relationship with hostile neighbor, for example, that is the case with India. So one needs to really understand that generally conspiracies are mostly asymmetric information. Conspiracies is most probably that either it is manipulation of information or directing the wrong information or directing the right information to the wrong people who cannot really understand that information. For an economist, for example, it was so simple to run claim for so many years when I started studying economics in 1996, and would spend a decade listening to presenters in conferences that Pakistan is development expenditure is curtailed because Pakistan has a large non-development expenditure because of defense expenditure. Whereas if you really change the context and make defense expenditure as needed for strategic reasons, as Europe is increasing its defense expenditure by 5% all across Europe, because what they would as well consider this, that strong defense would be a strategic asset. For example, this decision is being taken because of Ukraine-Russian war. So yet again, economists would be saying in front of maybe high profile officers as well that development expenditure is curtailed because of non-development expenditure, which is defense expenditure, whereas the situation is totally different. And I was at National Defense University as well. I have never really, or have so many friends in Pakistan Army and even relatives. Uh, I, for decades, that's a I studied at Army Public School as well, and some of my friends who are now senior Army officers, I know them from my school in Quetta, and it's been like 35 years. But never in our life I would have ever heard, some kind of a jihadi rhetoric from any of the army officers I have ever met in my life, or what they would represent is, of course, an interest in keeping themselves physically fit, and then trying to understand the world how it is, through definitely following both Pakistani and international media, and then having opinions with great reading habits. If you remember, in Pakistan, they would teach you, this in Urdu, maybe in eighth class, there was, Colonel Saab something, and then I was in eighth class, maybe I was 10 years old, and I was so impressed that, this Colonel Saab would really be something, a man of aesthetics and a man of poetry, and a very well-read person. And that's what the impression is. And suddenly, with the advent of war and terror, suddenly the impressions would well, what I would say is that there's yet another story being told about the establishment of Pakistan, which is really not true. And here, yes, being an active